Hi everybody. There might be a bit of sun glare, as you can see, like window open, so have some fresh air in. I'm trying to keep out of the sun so it doesn't, but it might just capture my hand when I'm moving and stuff. Um, this is for entertainment purposes only. It's only my own opinion, so just take it at face value. It's just part two to the shadow play video that I did last time. I'm going to start it off with I'm not sure if I've talked about this one before or not on YouTube. So you get like sort of midday when the sun's at its height. So I think I'm going to start it from there. And your shadows, they're like smallest on the ground at midday. So that's why I'm like starting it there when the shadows are smallest. And as it goes down towards evening, the shadow like creeps further and further away from the sunlight, the direction of the sunlight, and it gets taller and taller behind you, type of thing, until you get to the point where before the shadows get too distorted, and that twilight where your shadow's really long, going off down the street somewhere, and then it goes into the twilight where it's still light, but the shadow's gone, type of thing. And I'm thinking it's just a concept, okay, guys. So the concept is the shadow's gone and it's gone under, when it was underneath, then it wraps back around into the night. So then you're faced with your inner self. Just from the concept of in the Greek mythology, the moon rules the underworld. So now you've gone in yourself, under yourself. But I think it's a strange thing because I'm looking at it from two angles. I'm thinking, yeah, that I could see that, and I can be in have an opinion of an agreement with that, if you like. So part of me asks, well, where's the heavens and when do you see that? And I think you're seeing it at the same time, So when you're in that underworld, the inner shadow, when it's creeped back round and it's the darkness of your soul's reflected back on you. It is reflecting on you from the heavens. So you could the concept I was going with was could place the moon is part of the inner soul, and the heavens are still the stars. And it's just the moon that's the underworld part of it. There is no other part to it. That's the time you are faced with your inner demons the most. People the it's not always a case, but it's kind of leans towards ghosts will appear more towards the night rather than the day. Unusual things happen sort of going into twilight and around 3 o'clock in the morning, supposedly. But I think it's kind of all night, really. I think it just matter where you are in yourself. And I think that's the time when you are really faced with your inner soul, and you're also faced with the stars, which really would be representations of our ancestors. Just that we picked up from our perspective, I suppose we picked it all up from Greek. The stars are more Greek mythology. So for
there, everybody. Happy Hump Day. Good.
Sorry about that, guys. Telly just came on its own now. That distracted me. So I don't know where I was going now with that. I think I was kind of going into this concept here because I kept this card out for purpose. This is called nature, but it's actually the devil. This is a tarot card in the Green Witch Tarot. So this is a box to that, and it's got different. It's different to your Rider-Waite type tarot, you know. So like instead of like seeing the bondage, what you'd normally see on the devil card, you're not really seeing it here. You're actually seeing a guy dealing with his inner nature, and there's wild about he can't see around because it's dark. But in the background, like above his head up here, there's like the fairy dancing as well. So there's like that otherworldly, um, in a sense, like you know, like they are our ancestors also, you know. Um, but they're like kind of out of reach. They're in a fog. Can't quite really make them out. You know they're there, but you don't really see them. But you do see the bear, and there's a couple of other animals I can't really see here. Where is the other animal? I think there's a rabbit down here somewhere. I can't really see it without my glasses. I'd have to look at my glasses, but oh yeah, it is there. So it's hard to see it though, but it is there. I'd see if there's anything else. So it looks like it's like laying an animal trap to capture animals, but the animals are watching him, seeing what he's doing, and the animals could be pretty clever and learn also from the nature of like other beasts, so they could learn to avoid it, just like a fish can avoid a lure once they learn the patterns and stuff. That's why people keep changing lures and stuff. So like all nature like learns from one another, but like in this like sort of darkness, the one that's like hardest to see is the fair in the background, which I think like in a sense, you know, like you could like see this as the stars, because like it does have that reflection of ancestry. It's just like different in the Celtic world to the like Greek mythology of it. It's like they do see like their ancestors in the stars, like Hercules and all that, their ancestors, where we would have been the same once upon a time. And I'm not really like scholared enough in like paganism of my own country, because a lot of it's like missing. So I don't know what we would have looked at the stars, what we would have seen them to be. Unfortunately, due to like you know like other religions and that bringing in different beliefs and it just being like pounded after generation till like what was originally here is forgotten altogether, pretty much. Anyway, from morning on type of thing. We do like kind of hear our ancestors in a way. I don't know. I don't think I'm 100% right on the fact that like, but might be like sort of leaning towards type of being right, but not like 100%. That like when we hear them, we're like hearing them as like, oh well, do it this way, do it that way, like the way they did it, like even though like the fuck up and shit like that, they try and help you out by not taking you down that path, if you like. So it kind of feels like you got like a weight on your shoulders sometimes, like the world's watching you and all that's judging you and stuff, you know. It can get quite heavy in that sort of sense. Sometimes it's like, well, for me personally, it's only my own personal experience. I'm not suggesting that you do this or anything, but through my own personal experience, I kind of felt like I had to go through a period where I completely just ignored all them like inner voices of that type of within that type of theme, you know, like of like I will do this, live up to this. I just put it down. Well, that's not really my nature. That's not really my nature. So, kind of excusing myself out of it in a way, but so I wouldn't really suggest you do that. That's just been my own personal path, you know, like trying to find my own way and not listen to how something else wants it to be done, type of thing. So like through my earlier years, I like tried to live up to everybody else's expectations, and it felt purposeless. Eventually, you know, it just led me to one to suicide because I felt like I had nothing to give that was of myself. It was always for everybody else, and I was just like, well, what's the purpose of even being here? You know, if I've got nothing to offer, I'm a complete retard in a sense. because I wasn't schooled very well. So that just like led into other things like bullying and all that crap. Which just meant like I was facing like really heavy shadows, trying to live up to being reasonable, having good manners, like the common things that you just like grow up with, really. But having all these expectations that would like break those molds in a sense, but then like you had the word of like, oh well, you can't do that, you can't break those molds, you must have good manners and all the rest of it. But then like when you go into that like rebellious stage in your inner self, and it's usually through your teen years more than anything. Like it can go into your 20s to 30s as well, but I mean, my own personal experience with it was like I kind of grew out of it by 21, really. So I kind of got lucky in one way because I didn't like drinking alcohol. So that just stopped me socialising as much as what I would have done if I had liked it, type of thing. And I wasn't into sports or anything like that. So that crowd quite disappeared from me in a sense quite fast, and the only way I could like sort of talk with that crowd is to act stupid and stuff to make them laugh, and that would stop them from bullying me because I just didn't know how to get into that vibration. Also like found like through those early years where I think the shadows are the heaviest. You still get like heavy like shadows later on and all that, but they just come across different. I think for me, from my own personal experience in any way. But back then, like sort of was the height of also like between like say 12 to maybe 22, 23 was like the height of paranormal experiences for me as well. I had too many. I still had paranormal experiences after that, but they weren't as often. They're just like pretty rare experiences after that. But where like back then it was like almost like guaranteed to have at least one a week type of thing. But like all in like different ways and that. So I don't know if that's like the ancestors trying to do stuff or not. I can't really say. I don't know. I don't really understand most of it, even to this day. I had like the hag syndrome where you get pushed down on the bed. So I had that. You can't move and all that. Some people say it's sleep paralysis, but I don't think so because I had it like 3 days in a row, one day after each other, and they were all exactly 3 o'clock. When I looked at the clock, it was exactly 3 o'clock. And sleep paralysis, I doubt it would work like that. It would just be completely random. For it to just do that exactly bang on 3 o'clock, 3 days in a row, and I had to move the bed away from where it was to like try and stop it, and it worked. I felt like if I stayed there, it was just going to be continuously every night. That was just like one experience. Seeing like red eyes under the bed, I didn't just witness on my own. It was like me, my two sisters, two brothers also witnessed it. Trying to think of the most, like a lot of them are like just like meh type of thing. Could be anything, like knocking on the walls and all that. Could be just anything, the house settling or anything. It could be down to anything really, but the feeling was always like something was there at those particular times. But I must admit, like like imagination is kind of running away of itself when you're at that age, also. But there were a lot of times like that where I felt like as if someone was like grabbing my. This it was always this side as well, like as if someone put the hand on there and look around. There's nobody there while I'm sleeping. It was quite an often one. Sorry, guys. Just trying to think of them, like a lot of them were just like on that like where it was just like a feeling, like, or like hearing like knockings, or just like a really strong impression that something was there, but I could put my finger on it. I never really saw anything until I was a lot older, though, like a ghost. Till I was a lot older. I think my first ghost experience was in my 30s, but I didn't get many like sort of like paranormal experiences. But things started coming like more vivid, I suppose. Because I've seen two ghosts since then. So like one in a house that was really a strange event. I have a ghost walking upstairs, and I was laid down, looking in the mirror direct there, and then a ghost walking up the stairs, which made all the wallpaper, because I had this like tea light on a saucer. I'm assuming that's what it was. And it lit up all the wall, and the wallpaper changed. It had all these little red roses all over the wall. Imagine like this wallpaper behind me, I'm just little tiny red roses pattern all over it. But originally it was just white. And when I seen like the light died down, so I'm assuming he blew out the candle when he went into the back room. From me, because it was like another room behind me. It was a 2-bedroom house that I was living in on my own at the time. As soon as you blow out the candle, all those red roses just disappeared. I saw them all fade away, and the wallpaper went back to being white again. I thought, oh, what have I just seen? I didn't even move, I didn't even react to it. I thought it was such a strange experience. Strange in the way that, like I saw the house go back in time, in a sense. I've never experienced that barren there, to be honest. And in this flat where I'm living now, I've seen like an old, not old, but like a mid-aged Victorian woman with like a hat that had a veil coming from the rim of the hat. It was like one of those big rim hats, and just had the veil down, so someone had died. She was looking like haunted. Looking at me, but I don't think she was really seeing me as such. I think she was looking at somebody else there, But like, this used to be a butcher's like a long, long, long time ago. So I'm assuming like sort of age period would be the beginnings of that shop opening. Maybe some of the first people that ran the butcher's, but I'm not really sure, to be honest. I've seen like little creatures and things like that as well. Like I've seen what looked like a woodlouse, but it was this big. There's no woodlouse this big. It just looked like a black shadow, but had the same like outline as a woodlouse. I could actually see its legs, like it had many legs, like, and the sort of fat body and the two tentacles like a woodlouse has. And it was just climbing up my wall. I kind of woke up to it, so it's like kind of strange, because I woke up and I was like just like looking at it, and it crawled up my wall, and then this like white light, like a really dull blue white light, just appeared there, and it went up to the white light and crawled inside of it, and then the white light just disappeared. Oh, what the heck was that about? So like when it comes to that, like shadow works, like it's hard to, it gets like a touchy subject, like when you go into that side of it, because like in that like matrix of it, if this is like the fair reality, if you like, so like the woodlice, the ghosts and all that, like the fair reality, and they're working in like a matrix of an unknown, in a sense that they could be doing stuff. It's really tricky to say if they are or not, like I said, that the Victorian woman, I don't think she was looking at me. I think she was looking at someone else who died there. She had a like haunted look on her face. There was no reason for her to look at me haunted. I mean, perfect health at that time. The guy in the other house I seen go up the stairs with the tea light didn't even know I was even there. Just like went into the back bedroom doing whatever he did before I'd gone there. But like two completely different experiences. One with a really high residue, and I'm not really sure with a Victorian one, because I didn't see the house go back in time on that one. Just saw her, and she was solid. She wasn't see through or nothing. And again, the same with the guy at the other place. he was solid. They're the only like two actual ghosts I've seen in my life. And then like little woodlouse thing. I don't know what the heck that was. Whether it be like fair elemental or. I assumed at the time it was some kind of matrix worker, like it was doing something like like in another realm in a sense. But at the same time, I felt like it hadn't bothered me as such, as if it didn't even know I was there either. You know, just happened to wake up to it on its last bit of its journey to wherever it'd been doing, whatever it was doing. And the only other like things like that is like little shadows, like you see darting around and not like darker than dark. You know, like I had it quite a few times with electrical fire that I've got over here. So it's one of those electrical fires there that you can see. It just has bars on it. Got completely black. And the only thing with that, like I'm convinced it was a shadow that had moved in front of it, because I didn't see the light die down. It just went completely black, and then it was like back bright again. With like when I turn that off, you see the like light die down, still pretty quick, but you do see the like sort of for say like a second and a half, the light actually died down. So I've seen that quite a few times, like just go completely black, like in front of the fire. And I'm like, what the heck was that? In different places as well, like so it's not just being in one place, but maybe it just did die down that fast that it looked black, you know. It could be that, but I'm convinced of myself, from my own opinion, that something had moved in front of it, that, you know, it was like in another world, that for some reason that light, halogen fire blocked it, you know, blocked the light from it for some reason. Where it didn't block any, like, because I've been like ceiling light on, it didn't create a shadow on the floor or nothing. But the two different lights, because like this, there were the old bulbs back in the time when I used to see it a lot. Where now everything's LED, so I don't really see it. Now we've got these LED bulbs, like the anything like going on with them, you know. But I just like wonder, you know, like if that's like our ancestors, like in a sense, like, you know, like or like I suppose you could look at it from another angle, like if those the elementals that like of the land that our ancestors originally connected through, and maybe back in those days those elementals captured some of our ancestors' essence, or they willingly did it, or maybe it's unwillingly, we don't really know. You know, it could have gone both ways. And then they're trying to come back, break the veil, because they're looking for something, but we don't know what it is because we don't have the perceptive of what our ancestors once did. You know, like completely different mindset. I mean, we could guess on some of the like natural normal things. Obviously, they would go out to hunt. Obviously, they had festivities. Obviously, they had neighbours and so on and such. But you know, like when it comes down to their beliefs or their faiths, we just know like bits and pieces. You know, like the horned gods, the great god Pan, and things like that. You know, the Green Man, which we don't really know, but because like it's like a mixed bag of like Robin Hood type of stories to people dressing up for festivities to I suppose what you would assume to be like sort of in the fair realm of something that looked to be made up of leaves creeping around in the woods, that our ancestors once communicated with trees, bushes, or whatever. Um, like an elemental, really, that would take form of a human, but it would be like made up of bush, trees, grasses, and stuff like that. See, it's always like I ever said, like from where I started on tonight's video, like the moon rules the underworld, and the sense of agree with that is like you get a lot of stories. Not that I've witnessed this personally, but there's a lot of stories out there that these like apparitions, creatures, things like that will come through more when there's like a full moon or like a new moon, or when the moon's on its last sliver. Even sometimes, it's new moon, full moon, or last sliver, or some of the phases have stronger effects than others. I don't know why that's the case, but I'll give you like a suggestion, but it doesn't like really like sort of say this is a case for it. But it's like a what if type of thing. What if? What if the moon is a representation of our soul, really? Like the soul of the whole collective. That obviously it's like over the earth, so everything on earth's affected by it as such. And like sort of like say like in the imaginings of like everything on earth that's under creation as such. So now it's like all under the stars, and it's all under the moon at the same time, and the sun, which is like completely another different concept. But if our souls like is like represented through the moon, and our soul, which is like connected into our spirit as well. If the sensitivity of our spirit is high, like us, or I don't want to say the word sensitive, but if it's like tuned into the frequencies of like bandwidths that are not normally seen as such, then maybe it's like like the soul could connect to the spirit world in a sense, so you could like see creatures of the unknown, things that are just out of place, the oddities of the world, if you like. But then it's like the only thing is I came to a conclusion, if that was like really the case, then is if it's like on a collective like that does mean as a representation of like a collective soul on a whole, that everybody's soul is cold and barren, and it's just like cold and barren. It just hangs there in the sky. And then like the other concept was like if that really is the case, like let's say just like what if that was the case, then what is the sun? The sun would have to be the opposite to the soul. Which it's a really tricky one, because like the stories of the sun is like it's like only like a recent thing to mythology of things. It wasn't originally there. There was other suns and such, but like taking all that out of the picture, like sort of, well, all we have really like, well, in my opinion, is like from the Western side of things, we have the polar, who plays a harp, so that must be like the sort of sound frequency of the sun, the harp, the up there in the heavens, like la di da di da. Sort of, I call it like daisy picking, like it's just an imaginary world. There's no concept of what goes on in the real world. Start picking daisies while anything could be happening, type of thing, in a dream world. La di da di da type of thing. it still doesn't really answer what it is like. Because I wouldn't think it was our spirit. Because spirit, like from my own personal experience, like and witnessing other people's, I've seen like even one's own spirit can be quite dark. Yes, the sun can be seen as dark as well. If you can imagine, like like a paradox that the sun is so dark, like proper pitch dark, that it ends up being bright because it's paradoxal. Like looking at it from that point of view, it could actually you sort of see people's spirit. It's like the spirit of it's like on a collective and that. And it would be mostly dark and out of touch in nature and all that. The blinding light. Oh, come on, go ahead with it anyway. Go along with what everybody does. Believe in the science, but there's no nothing concrete to back it up. Blind and light. Just put your faith in it. That'd be like all the sun type of stuff. Believing, but it would have to come from spirit because it's like your own will. It'd have to go there. So I could actually see being the spirit in that sense of it. It's just tricky because like the shadow is your will as well, but it's like at a different like sort of vibrational frequency to, or just go along with it anyway. It's like you have to come across it from the personality of is it factual, and you can't just take it at face value. So you have to research it yourself, despite what anybody else says about it, type of thing, including like a top prof type of guy. If he's coming out with something you just don't believe in it, you look into the plausibilities first, because that's where you'd have to start from. The plausibilities, is that plausible? Then if it is kind of plausible, you still got to look into it further than that. You can't just go plausibility, because it's plausible when you look at it on a YouTube video and they go up in the air for about 30 miles and they look back on the earth and they invert the camera to make it look like the earth's flat. It's plausible the earth's flat, but we all know it's not. It's a globe. It's just that one difference of like the inner imagining whether it's going to go, or just go along with it. It defies, a certain class or political class or whatever. So just go for it for that reason, or for the sake of faith reason, and then it just leaves it there, but it doesn't look at the accountability then after that type of thing. So when you look into if I'm going to say like accept the Earth's flat, which I don't, by the way, but say if I went there, I have to look into how can I account for that then, that it is. So the first thing you'd go and do is you'd go outside to an open space and you'd look at the horizon if you can, and all like 360 or as much as you possibly can. And if there's no hills, there's no valleys, then yeah, you could say the Earth's flat. But because there's hills and valleys straight away, like in most places, I don't know what, I suppose there are some places where there's no hills and valleys and such, but for around here, like hills and valleys, which tells me the Earth's not. That's like your starting point, and then you got like your the sun and the moon tells you as well, like because of the seasonal changes from winter to summer of the moon coming up and down. I'd guarantee, like what they say about the sun going out of, it goes that many miles away that you can't see, but it's supposed to be on like a flat plane, and yet you could still see Venus. It just makes no sense. If you could still see Venus, you'd still see the sun because the sun's brighter than Venus. But like flat earthers just won't go there. So it's obviously gone below the horizon, you know. It's not like above the horizon still, somewhere up like like a 1,000 miles away. It just wouldn't make any sense. It's like even on like the shortest nights, where you could still see like a bit of twilight sometimes, like till 11, 12 o'clock, and then it goes dark for an hour or two, and then you see the twilight again, even though it takes a long time for the sun to come back up. You could still see, you know, like just tell by that, like sort of like, oh well, it's going that far into the horizon in the summer. Obviously, in the winter, it's going a lot further because from like sort of 5 o'clock in the night onwards, it's pretty much pitch black almost up here. That tells you like you got a circumference there. You know that the sun is actually going below, and it's coming up the other side. So it's going around something. It's not just a flat Earth. It's not like how they have it, like a clock dial and all that. I'm not a scientist, so it's hard for me to like explain all that crap. But for me, I don't get it. You know, it's just like a CIA or psyop, really. There's so many of them around now. It's not just them guys. It's a lot of others. But these are all the things, you know, like when you do a shadow work and you have to. The thing with shadow work is you could well, I think for most people, and it was definitely for myself, you come to the conclusion that you have to take accountability for every action, and it could get really overwhelming because it can be down to every little vibration that you're creating, and because the brain's like a scatter. When you first come into that realization, it's quite haunting because like it's hard to control that like scatter. But then you do find out that like, you know, it's not really that bad. Yes, you can be more sensitive and all the rest of it. It's up to you. You know, you make your own path from that point. So whether you like be sensitive or not, type of thing. I think I was a bit too oversensitive with this reality type of thing. At the end of the day, it's like I do see like the side of it that goes, well, why do you give a fuck about any of it? Nothing else seems to, type of thing. So kind of play into that as well, you know. Just do whatever I think I want, type of thing. It doesn't matter because nobody cares, nobody doesn't care. It's like both sides of the coin. It doesn't matter which side it lands on. Like, you know, you can't win. If you want tails, it'll come up heads. If you want heads, it'll come up tails, type of thing. And if you try and cheat it by saying heads and tails, it'll land on its side. That's kind of what it's like, you know. Every now and again, you'll pull it off, you know, where it lands on the side that you want it to land on. In the sense of like not trying to fuck things up for yourself, trying to get the life so you're kind of content with what you pulled off, in a sense. It's tricky, you know, like if you're on a path like myself where I might have gone like overboard on it, and I'm not saying that this is like what it'd be like for you guys, but it almost like goes into a pattern where it feels like people make up shit, you know, just to have an excuse to something that you just can't really fathom, you know, just so they can get something like that blindsided again, you know. It's like my sister when my mum's funeral was like not that long ago, like last year. All the family got together and see my sister for a while. She wanted a hug, and I'm like no, never done that in my life. Never hugged you or nothing. And like she was like, oh, we used to always hug, and I'm like, didn't. Almost was just going to pull my other sister and my other brother to one side and say, have I ever hugged you guys? But then they probably would have said, yeah, even though I never have. And you know, like I think, like for them, they're convinced that I did. but I never have. But it just makes me think, like a conspiracy. So I'm like one of those type of people. I can't help it. It's just like a natural response of, oh well, if that's like what it is, and conspire to in like my own thoughts of they were trying to make themselves look light, like like that love and light type of shit. Probably she didn't really know about that type of stuff, but you know, people just do that naturally. And anyway, like make up something, convinced that it probably happened, but the probability, the probability doesn't matter if it never happened or anything. You see a lot of this when you start working on your shadows. Trust me, from my own personal experience, it's been an absolute nightmare in that like earlier years of it, trying to understand why people would say stuff like you'd done stuff, or they've seen you somewhere and you weren't even there, just to make themselves look a certain way, or try and make you look a certain way because they wanted something that you seem to have in their head, but whatever that would be, you're like, it's like really hard to fathom what actually that is. All I can put it down to, like in that sort of roundabout way, is they're trying to get something out of something, like blindside something, so that they can maybe earn a friendship with someone who else is around you or from yourself. But if you don't work that way, it's not going to work, which I didn't. I don't work that way. I don't conspire in that way, I conspire in myself to look at the nature of like, well, how would I go about that? If I went about it that way, what would I be doing it for? And it's the only like conclusion I could come up to, if I like did it myself that way, like, oh, well, I'm just going to say to my sister, oh, well, we hugged each other when we never did. I don't really want to do that to make myself look good in someone else's eyes, like of that sort of light of, but why? When it's never happened, sort of thing. That's the bit I just never get. I don't understand why it's said and why it's done. Just that, like it's a blind side. And just a lot, you see a lot of it go on, especially like if you're sort of going to the realms of like, well, I'm taking accountability. Once you take accountability, means you have to look at the hard facts of your life, like what's really going on, what are you really doing, which means you can't just pretend like something's happened that hasn't. So you can't just go along with what anybody's saying just to get something out of you, type of thing. I think this is like the darkest as it goes, and I'm not really sure which side of the spectrum is it on. Is it on out at midday when the sun's at its brightest, because the sun's that bright it's dark that it blinds you? Or is it the moon, like two souls in a sense? There's two souls, but they're completely polar opposites. If you want to hang around for another 15 minutes, go to another little story that I have actually said on YouTube before. It's up to you guys, but pretty much finished with the shadow thing. So I had like a vision quest, or in-depth thought, if you want to look at it that way. But I was actually on a quest at the time, like a spiritual walk, if you like. I if I remember right, I pulled the Palps of Anu on the Morrigan Oracle set, which is like two hills. A piece of incense in the middle of, on these stones and going up. And I did it really early hours. It was still dark, like something like 5 or 6 o'clock in the winter time, just on that verge of within another half an hour it was going to go into twilight type of thing, and then another 15 minutes it'd be light type of thing. So I decided to go out and go along with it, like I thought, right, I'm going to go out. I'm going to go on a quest with this I know, like see if I could experience it. Like I felt a calling, I felt like I was dealing with a Morrigan back then a bit more than I am now. Wish he was like still as strong now, because it was kind of like you feel kind of a bit special, but you can't just like rely on that type of thing. It comes and goes. Anyway, so I went out, and as soon as I went out, it was still black. The sky was black, and I could swear like the moon was just like on a sliver, like on this side, like on its crescent. I looked at it and thought, oh, the moon's just coming up, I think, if it's on that side. I'm not really sure. No, going down, going towards the sun, that's right. So be going into a new moon again, sort of thing. And I didn't look at it after that. I went on my walk to get to this like certain spot that I wanted to get to. It clouded over as well, so I couldn't see the moon in anywhere. I had my torch and everything. And I found within about 5 minutes I didn't even need my torch, because it was getting into like kind of light enough to see through the twilight. By the time I got to the point where was wanting to get to, obviously it got quite light by then. It was like two hills. It's not it wasn't the same Alps and Ireland, but it just has a bit of a similar shape over here. So I thought, right, I'll do it here. It's a representation of, I could have that same experience, that the Morrigan's calling me to see what's actually going on here. So I took a little cone incense with me, and I just put it on a rock and lit it. And there's like a bench behind it as well, so I could actually sit down without getting my ass wet. Sat down, and then I seen the moon, like it was right in front of me, right there, like right in front of the incense stick and everything, and it was half full now. I'm thinking, I could have sworn that was like only a crescent. That's like, it kind of stumped me, like, how can that be half full? I could have sworn that was only a crescent. There's just no way the cloud would have made it look like that. So I was just like rolling over that in my head for a little bit, and then I thought, oh, come on, you're doing something here, type of thing. So like I thought, oh well, I'll stand up and I'll go back towards like the incense and have a look, sort of like directly ahead. It was like just like one of those pause moments really, where nothing was really coming through or anything really type of happening as such. And I sat back down again till the incense went out. I stayed there till it went out. I wouldn't go until that had gone out. That was like the mission. It seemed to last for friggin' ages. Like, when's that thing going out? It was just like forever type of thing. It was not really, like, it was probably only about 15 minutes really, but time, it just like slowed time out, like on that way I had to be there till that like ran out type of thing. And then it was on the journey back, just like thought just popped into my head for no reason whatsoever. Because I'd seen the moon do quite a few funny things, like over the years, like being in different places in the sky where I'd never ever usually seen it. And it wasn't even that long before that where I'd seen the moon kind of in the same direction, but it was like further down. I'd never seen it set there. I'd always seen it like set further over type of thing. So like I asked a question to myself. For some reason I put it this way as well, that if the moon's been in the underworld, is it actually coming up into, like, say we're on Middle Earth, so it's going to come up onto Middle Earth, and then the sun's going to go down into the underworld. And I didn't know why I asked myself that, and I was like just mulling it over. And I actually did a video on YouTube at the time, which it's not there anymore now, but I asked about it, and it came up with like a solid yes, with like the things are moving into the underworld, and it looked like the moon, because I did like one set over here for the sun and one for the moon, so it looked like the sun was going into the underworld, because it was on that half, and on the moon's half it was like saying if it's like to be celebrated and like we're showing like cards that like would deal with like sort of praise above sort of thing. Celebrate like sort of like the fables and all this type of thing, So that was like suggestibility to me, like oh that's coming up into the heavens, and it's always like in the heavens really, but so I like came to the conclusion like at the end of that sort of reading that people were on two frequencies like this when they say like this 3D 5D split, and I never looked at it like that. So I was like, thought, well, I can accept it if it's like sort of like say people who are on like who get drawn to the night, like myself. I'm more of a night person than a day person. I do like getting out in the day. 'Cause you get that sort of you could see things, and like the shops are open and all the rest of it. It's a bit of a pain in the ass being out in the night unless you really plan it, sort of thing. But like homely, I'll stay up and anyway quite late, sleep till the afternoon, and I'm getting up in the afternoon because I'm more in the night than I am in the day. It just feels better for me, So I'm thinking like people like me who, I'm not saying this is the case for everybody, but like say for people who deal with their shadows, they might be on a different time spectrum to what I am, but still like heavy in them shadows could be drawn more towards the moon. And people who like sort of question to blind faiths, just make up willy-nilly type of thing, blind faith it, blindside it, follow the sun. Then I could accept that like two split. If it's like two souls going off in two different directions, they're like that, like chopping and changing. One goes down, one comes up, one goes down, one comes up. But then there's like another cycle, like the only way to explain it is like our years. So like 1 year to us is supposed to be like 1 day to like the Vedic God year type of things, because I only heard that in the Vedas. And I can sort of go along with that, so if that's just like 1 day, then there's another cycle outside of that where it's like every 1,000 years down here is just 1 day somewhere further up. It just keeps going like that, So to these cycles, and anyway, this 1 day, 1,000 year cycle thing, like the Kali Yuga and all them that run on that system, could be like the sun and moon, sort of who gets to rule the underworld and who gets to rule the heavens, swapping places, And I'm not sure how that would be represented through the light frequencies. What happens if they change, sort of thing. The only thing I could think of, like offhand, it's kind of dark, is that like those who follow the blind side of the sun, the blind faiths, blind sciences, and all that type of stuff. Looking at it from like the shadow point of view, because try and look at like sort of that accountability. Just got to take accountability for myself. That isn't taking accountability for itself. On the blind side of things, it's running into a blind void because there's no accountability for it. So it just allows it to drift off, into space type thing. It doesn't have to answer to anything. Just lets it drift off into space. So it's drifting into a void of nothingness. Where like I suppose for the shadow workers, it's getting quite tough as well, because that accountability is becoming stronger and stronger and stronger in areas that the perception's never dealt with before. It is going into areas of like it's so tricky to talk about, like it's not really a butterfly effect because it's nothing to do with that, but it's the only way I could explain it. It's like like butterfly flaps its wings, as a hurricane over there, which is really stupid concept type of thing. But I think like in the shadow realm of it, it's almost like if you vibrate on this certain frequency of personality, then yes, that personality can be quite drastic given time if you like stick to that, if you like. So I'm finding it like, always being challenged to be open and really put nothing on the table, but you have to put things on the table at the same time. You have to have your magician's table, if you like. You have to have things on it that create a purpose for you and the universe and nature and people around that you connect with. How you deal with it all type of thing. You kind of have to have that. But like in this like shadow sort of concept, it's almost like it keeps throwing things off the table. Like, oh, you're taking that too personal. Just leave the table empty in a sense, but you can't really leave it empty either. It's just quite a challenge to, well, no, I need that bit there and that bit there. Otherwise, I can't mingle with the world even at this moment in time. It's just not quite there yet. Let me mingle with it. Let me mingle with it. Almost having like a fight with it. Like I'd like to be like that and take everything off the table and restart whatever, be out in nature would be like the ultimate goal, I would imagine. That's what I think, So the table becomes nature itself. Where the table at the moment is just like something that's in my head, That's why it's like chucking everything off. Because I don't want anything there, type of thing. Because it's all outside in nature. It wants me there. The only thing like conflict I'm having with is that I can't really be out there because of still the Kali Yuga is still going on and it's having quite a drastic effect on things at the moment. And I'm just finding that like shadows getting stronger and stronger and stronger. I want to go out more and more and more, but I can't go out more and more and more because it almost feels like that Kali Yuga's getting heavier. But at the same time, it's just like there's that concept when you're like dealing with shadow work, you want to be out at the pitch black most point of night, put yourself into a place that spooky kind of, has that eeriness to it, just to fight like your own like voices type of thing on purpose, like all the weird noises that and how you would react to all that. So you're like out there, and you don't, but you know what's going on around you, but you wouldn't really see it, But obviously, I wouldn't go out hunting myself, but in this concept, that's like what it's like, though. Like you're out there hunting, but not for animals. You're hunting your own shadow, but the animals would create that for you, or nature would create that for you, creaking trees and scurrying mice. And even in some extreme cases, could be elementals in the fair. Things will play tricks on you, but it's the best way to actually see what's going on in your internal dialogue. Like what's really going on when when you really are truly left alone to yourself, when you have actually took everything off the table in a sense, because you have none of those options available to you, because it's outside of that concept of the perception of what goes on in you. You're not really dealing with that in a sense. You are, like, obviously dealing with it, but you're also dealing with like a one-on-one concept, right, of like now you're in that nature of it, with the nature of it, rather than being boxed in on a curve. So I'm going to have to do, the still, and I mentioned it before, I've got to do a night quest, and I've still got to do it, so I'm going to have to do it and maybe do part 3 to this if I actually pull it off. It's tricky to do at the moment, for me in any way. I don't know why, like all this sort of, almost feels like I'm under curfew. I don't know, I'm not under curfew, but that's what it feels like. So I've just got to get over there and get out. Anyway, the video's been an hour long, so I'm going to leave it there, guys. Just something to think about, strange kind of way about going things. Anyway, I'll let you go. Catch you later, guys. Bye.